What is up, everybody? Damn it.
What? You did it. That was fun.
It was fine?
Yeah.
Felt my lips were like blabbering.
Well, now it's definitely interesting. Now it's definitely funny.
What is up, everybody? This is Joe Adams, and welcome to the Relentless Pursuit podcast. As always, we got my man Logan Hyder of Cinema 83 in the house over here doing his thing.
Hello.
And
beautiful people.
today, we have a very special guest for you, Mrs. Tia May, the crazy car chick. Welcome.
Not to be confused with the calm car chick.
Yeah,
No,
she's not calm
definitely
at
not
all.
calm.
I've grasped that immediately, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
No worries. But that being said, so Tia was introduced to me by somebody on Instagram that saw your profile and everything that you're involved with, and I checked it out, and I was like, well, she does a lot of different shit. Veteran, big mental health person. You race cars. You got your own brand. You do a number of things, and so I was like, well, that lines up perfectly with what we're doing. People that are just getting after it in life. So, welcome to you.
I am so glad to be here.
Glad to have you here. So, tell us really just briefly, and then we're going to take it back. Just tell us what you do. And that's that. You know, if you could put it in a nutshell, just brief, couple sentences, and then we'll take it back and we'll work our way into it.
Okay. Basically, I'm just trying to live life to the fullest while helping as many people as I can.
I align with that. That's what matters.
It's simplified. I have gone through a lot of crap, and I want to have fun. I want to be happy, and I want to help everybody. Like since I was a little kid, I always had this like Superman syndrome, like where I want to save people.
Yeah.
And it probably comes from feeling like I needed to be saved. And so now, like, I'm just like on a mission. I'm like,
On a mission.
what do you need help with? It doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
I want to help you.
Yeah. I mean, that's amazing. That's exactly what we're doing here. That's what RP is all about. Is an impact.
Part of that is connecting with other organizations and companies like this
That do similar things.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we're going to get more into that. So, but we want our audience to get to know you a little bit. So take us back, going to the background, going back to the early years of Tia, you know, where you're from, a little bit of your upbringing and whatnot, whatever you want to dive into. And then that'll bring us into everything you're going after now.
Yeah. I was born and raised in Minnesota, land of the lakes.
The Great North.
Yes,
Minnesota?
the Great North. Yeah.
I couldn't help myself. I'm sorry.
I've never heard that before.
I tried to keep it in, but I couldn't.
Oh, yeah, don't you know?
What?
Yeah.
Is that French?
No, it's just they have
Just
it's just an
kidding.
accent that they have up there.
I'm joking.
It's crazy, the accent, the northern accent. Anyways, good.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, what
They
the hell?
make fun of me and say I'm like super Southern, and I'm like, you have no idea.
Yeah,
I am
right.
not Southern.
Yeah.
But yeah, I grew up with two alcoholic parents, and my dad was kind of out of the picture from the time I was little. So my mom, she did her best as a single mom for the most part, and she had a lot of her own demons that she was facing. Now that I'm older, I can see, where all this, dark childhood
Stems
came
from.
from. Yep. So she worked a lot, so I pretty much raised myself. And we
Do you
just,
have any siblings?
I do. They're older. They're a lot older. They were moved out before I was born.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So like I was basically an only child. But me and her had a very, very dark relationship. It came to me getting kicked out. I think I was about 17 when she threw me out, and I did the whole like homeless teenager Underground Railroad, like hid in people's basements, and they snuck me food, and I went and got a job. I sold drugs. I did whatever I could to survive.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, I mean, not nice, but
Yeah, I know. I was like, oh, that's great.
what kind of drugs are you pushing? You know what I'm saying? Jeez, I'm trying to break.
Nothing intravenous. It was
Yeah.
all, mostly pot, but
Yeah.
so yeah, I went through that, and I mean, obviously, I dropped out of high school. I tried the alternative school. It wasn't until I decided that the life I was living was crap or shit. I mean, it was pure shit. So I remembered recruiters coming into the high school, and I was like, my dad was Army. Like maybe I should just go to the Army and like leave this place, and it'll be a better life. And so I did that. I got my GED and signed up for the military.
Nice. You went Army?
I went Army.
What'd you do?
I was in communications, so I set up antennas out in the field.
Okay. How many years you do that?
I got to do that for about 3 years, and I spent the last year of my 4 out processing medical.
Okay. You want to tell us about your little military journey and a little bit about that?
It wasn't good. As a female veteran, I have a story that's not unique. I was sexually harassed almost the whole entire time. I was withheld rank. I busted my ass and didn't get anything for it, you know. I pushed through the best I could, and then when I got med boarded, I was like, all right, that's behind me. you know, like I went to Korea, and that was really cool, parts of it, but something you won't find in any newspaper is we had like horrific protesting going on from not long after I got there.
Oh, really?
There was two Korean young girls that got run over by a U.S. tank.
Jesus.
And so we were at the 2ID headquarters, and so they decided to come to us, and there was thousands of people outside our gates every day. Damn. So we were locked down, you know, like no going to see the sights and partying. It was all just 24 hours of wondering if they're going to break through the gates, and they were throwing Molotov cocktails, trying to light our trucks on fire. It was insane.
That's crazy. I mean, y'all had tanks and shit, though. You know, not like they could have done a whole lot, but that's America, man.
Well,
Let's run over somebody with a tank.
And because of the way they didn't want to be perceived in the news, we weren't allowed to have any weapons. Like when we went up to the gates to like guard the base, like we were just standing there with like nothing.
Clenched fist.
Yeah, clenched fist. Like,
Let's go.
What are we going to, we're literally going to fight off thousands of people with our bare hands?
No,
okay.
that's not happening.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Like, and you knew that. You knew the minute they came through the gate that you were taken over.
Well, so what did you get med boarded for?
So like
What does that mean, by the way?
Medical discharge, no longer able to do your job because you're, you know, medically unsound, I guess.
Gotcha.
So, and we kind of discussed this a little bit. Through basic training, you get a round of vaccines that they won't tell you. Like I even asked, you know,
You just walk through a line and just getting
you just walk
pinned.
through a line like a bunch of cattle and just like choo 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 choo, and I'm like, okay, take it. And then before I went to Korea, I went through a whole nother round, and this is only like weeks apart. And my body just had what I've researched to find an autoimmune response to the over injections. Yep. And it's very common, especially in women. Mm-hmm. And so immediately I started having a lot of joint pain. And like I was super fit. I was super into sports. I had never had any joint pain in my life. And it was to the point where I was on crutches. I could no longer lift stuff. Like I was struggling. And they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. And they almost kind of made it sound like I was faking it. You know, I was faking it to get out of work and to get out of doing stuff. And I'm like, you see my history. I'm like busting my ass. Like I'm not lazy. I don't want out of this. So I was literally living on pain medication for about 12 years because of that. Because they didn't know what was wrong with me. So I was taking up to, I think, 6 Percocet a day, just floating through life, just trying not to hurt.
Yeah.
So that was the end. That was the end of that.
How quickly after you got like all those vaccinations, was it like pretty quick that all that stuff started
like
happening?
within months. Like within months, I was almost completely crippled.
There's a guy who was a friend of my sister. He went to go join the Marines, I think, and they did that, and it was like just a couple of years ago. So of course they did the COVID vaccine as well, and but yeah, I remember it was high teens the amount of vaccines that he got at one time, and he almost died. Like he had a heart issue that he developed like immediately. He was sent to the hospital and he wasn't able to join, and it broke his freaking heart.
Yeah,
and
that was probably from that one vaccine they just created out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean it definitely could be, but I'm just saying that just in general, like whichever one it was, the point being is that he's like you said, just
just
and
so
then look at his
many.
body falling apart out of nowhere. I wonder why.
I think I got lucky, even though it did have the effect on me. I was one person away from getting the anthrax vaccine, and they ran out. And they're like, I'm so sorry, we just ran out. I was like, thank you. I didn't want it.
Is that a particularly like?
It's really bad.
Rough
Yeah,
one.
I think I got that one.
A lot of people have a bad response to it, and there's like a series that you have to get. I think it's like 3 different shots that you have to get.
Like I got that.
I did not. I was like, I don't want this, and I was standing in there, and I was like, I don't have a choice. Like if you refuse, you get a negative discharge. So,
Which is
you
crazy.
which is insane.
I mean, I know it's the military, but damn.
Military, woohoo. But
Sign that paper here.
Yeah.
That is what it is.
So I spent a year working in the gym where I was basically taught and treated like a civilian. I got to wear civilian clothes, and I ran the gym. I would help all the soldiers, kind of keep them organized and keeping the gym running until I was discharged.
Okay. And when was this?
2002.
20. Yeah.
Almost
20
22
2002.
years ago.
20. Damn.
I
Okay.
love that number.
What?
22. It's just.
Oh
it's,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
in everything.
And we're gonna get down to that
Yeah.
because I definitely wrote that down.
Yeah.
So okay, moving past the military world, did you want to stay in when you were in, or
I wanted to be high ranking. Like, I wanted to run the show. Like, I loved military life. I love shooting guns. I love blowing stuff up. I didn't want to kill anybody. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a very empathetic person. So like, I was like, hopefully none of this will ever happen. And it was funny because like AIT, I'm like in AIT and we're in class and they turned the TV on, everybody's screaming, and that was when 9/11 happened. So I had just put the uniform on. My dad's like, "Don't worry, there ain't been a war, and whatever, you'll be fine." And I'm like,
Longest war ever right after that.
couple weeks into it, and I'm like, I have the worst timing. I'm like, couple weeks into it, we actually watched the second plane hit in the classroom.
Yeah.
And it was just immediately, just my body, it felt like everything shut down, and it was like, I'm 19 and my life is about to end. Like, that's kind of the mindset I went into. Luckily, I was on orders to go to Korea and they wouldn't change it. So I went to Korea to deal with that mess instead.
Interesting. And we're not going to get into it, but we had the girl that was she's a first gen immigrant from Iraq.
Yeah.
And, but just learning the history on that, how 9/11 led to her country just getting bombed the fuck up. For no reason.
For a bunch of
other reasons.
Innocent people.
Yeah, and it went from being a normal country to like now it's just chaotic.
Yeah.
It's pretty sad to hear about, but that's we can get into all that. That'll be a whole like segment
whole
of
nother
its own.
segment.
But and I get you there. I mean, when I joined, I was pretty lost at the time, so I was like, I'm gonna be in 30 years, chief master sergeant,
retire
of
when
the
you're
Air
50.
Force, Adams, and I mean. 4 years in, I was like, all right, I'm ready to get the fuck out, So, because I wanted to cross train into special operations, and they just didn't allow me that opportunity till way too far in, and I was like, I'm already 1 foot out the door. So, I mean, I liked my job, I liked what I did, but I was ready to roll. So, and here I am. I wouldn't change a thing. Life turned out beautifully. So, just there's seasons, and that was a chapter of my life that was necessary and has led to a lot of other killer stuff. So,
I think it's really cool to look back on all the things that I've been through. And be like, oh, that was a stepping stone.
Yeah.
To right here.
Yeah, but I still got my my boys that are still in doing that, and I'm like, hey, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not knocking it, but they're still in. They're going to be lifers, So 2002, you got out, or you got out. Okay. So after that, what was the next part of your journey? Did you move back to Minnesota?
So no, I was released with 40% disability, messed up from my neck down to my toes. And I think that was about, at the time, $450 is what I was supposed to survive on. Because, I couldn't work. My body was shot. I fell into a relationship, ended up getting pregnant within like 6 months of getting discharged. So here goes I never planned on being a mom. I was always, on this pursuit of, travel and do all these things, these hardcore stuff. I'm blowing stuff up. I'm not in mom mode, But it came, and that changed the trajectory, altogether. I was moved to Mississippi from her dad, and left in, I don't know if you know anything about Oxford, but moved me to Oxford, and it is, it's a world of its own down there. It's a very tight-knit, your family knows this family kind of thing.
Small,
I was an outsider. I was not welcome there at all. That relationship, very toxic. So left that to become a single mom and go, find myself, find a job, survive for my kid. I mean, lots of...
Away from Mississippi?
Started in Mississippi, in Oxford, moved to Tupelo, which I thought was it's a lot more laid back environment, a little bit bigger. Had job there, and I got into like the music industry. Like they had a local scene. I did photography for bands.
Okay.
I got on a few tour buses and hung out with those guys and went on tour with my now husband when we first met. And I always, I thought, okay, I'm going to be in music and I'm going to be doing like videography and photography. And so me and my current husband, we moved to Nashville, I want to say in 2012-ish time. He had mentioned he wanted to move to either Nashville or California.
Okay.
And I was like, California's expensive and it might break off into the ocean. So I'm looking towards Nashville.
Yeah.
It's only, it's a lot closer, cheaper to move to, cheaper to live, or it was at the time. And I had $100 in my bank account. I'll never forget, $100. I sold everything I had. And I loaded up a Honda Fit. And if you know what a Honda Fit is,
Can't really load much
it
up.
don't fit much.
Yeah.
I had it stacked to the ceiling, and my daughter is just crumpled in there going, okay, we've got like a 4-hour drive.
go.
And let's go. And we actually we knew one person off of social media that lived in Nashville. So we actually stayed with her for a couple months on her futon. So we didn't have anything.
What about your husband?
He left. He had never been out of Mississippi, and he left everything he knew to follow me here. He didn't have a job set up or anything. So like he took whatever job he could find. He's a surveyor, and he got into that. Obviously, I was still working, even though I was disabled. I was still working because I didn't have enough money, with my disability to not. I worked at a sign company, and I thought I had room to develop my, I did graphic design and stuff like that, give me an artsy job. But I ended up being stuck in customer service, and I was really good at it. I'm good at, I hate to say it like bragging, but I'm just really good at just about anything that I'm put into. I'm just very driven in that way. So I did really good in sales, but the environment was toxic as far as like the people I worked with. I knew it wasn't for me. My hands were giving out. So luckily for me, I met an older woman because I told her I was fighting for disability. I was fighting. I was like, I don't know. It went from 40 to 50 and then 50% to 60% and 60% to 70%. Still not a livable wage. Yeah. And luckily I met this little old lady at the VA one day, and she's like, have you ever filed for unemployability? She's like, how long have you been out of work? And I said, a year or two. I quit my job because of my hands. She said, you can file for unemployability. And I was like, I've been doing this with the VA for 10, 11 years. Never has this been brought up.
You just got to find the right people.
Right? So I applied, got my 100%. Permanent, total. Finally, I have a wage it's not what I believe I'm worth, but it's a livable wage where I can help take care of my family without being forced to go to work, through all the disability and stuff I was dealing with.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I'm pushing for the 100%. I got connected with somebody in TSU, and it would go a long way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's life changing once you get there, because you're like, okay, there's a whole lot of stress that come off my shoulders when that happened, because I was like, if I have this, I'm okay. Like I can survive on this. It's not going to be comfortable, but I can survive. I can pay my bills and put food on the table. Yeah. But I need more, and that's where I'm at now. I'm like, okay, how do I do more?
Of course. Yeah. But
with my limitations, Yeah. So that's where we came to. We're now, like I said, we came here with nothing. We're now in a really nice neighborhood. We built a house about 8 years ago. When I got my disability to 100%, I was able to get a house. We built a nice house. We've been there 8 years. I'm moving in right now into the next phase. Like I'm wanting to flip the house because it's worth twice, what we paid for it. Of course. So I'm gonna flip the house, go get some land, build a huge, crazy car chick shop. Nice. Out in the middle of nowhere, so I don't have any neighbors.
That's my goal.
Right. Mm-hmm. I think that's a lot of people now.
Where do you live now?
We're out in Lebanon, right between Lebanon and Mount Juliet, in a subdivision.
Off Leeville?
No, off 109.
Yep, that's what I was going to
Okay.
say.
Yeah, my
What's it
family.
called?
I don't know how specific I want to
Is it
get.
called
I don't
Spence-
need.
or,
Yeah, you know
okay,
it. You
yeah.
know it.
That's
think
the-
I-
I don't need people coming to
I won't
hunt
say
me
it,
down.
but that's where my fiance's boss works out of.
Okay.
Out of that
Yeah.
out of that neighborhood.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about because I go up that way all the time. My family, my sister's family, and my parents live off Leeville Pike right up there.
Yeah.
So it's pretty nice.
I like it because it's close enough where you're not driving an hour to go to
Yep.
places, but it's out of there enough to where you almost feel like you're kind of out in the country. So
Yep.
Yeah, that's why I like being in Murfreesboro. Like I'm right on the outskirts, so
Yeah.
it's not that
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
You know, I could not imagine living in
No.
even an exit
No.
up.
No.
Murfreesboro
You know?
is a good way for that too. For the
Yeah.
same type thing.
Yeah, that's. I mean, we'll talk about this stuff later. People are gonna be like, okay, what the hell is
Yeah,
that?
who
I'm
cares
just
about
kinda
your house?
No, but what it is important to point out though that a lot of people are wanting to move like just on some land and do that.
Yep, I have met so many people that are like, "Look, the world's going to shit. I need land. I need to start growing my own food.
Yep.
Collecting water. Like, I mean, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I pay attention to what's going on in the world, and it's scary.
Yeah,
so.
it's definitely not going in the best direction.
I don't,
so.
and then COVID was a big eye opener to what happens when shit goes down.
Yeah.
You can't get anything. You
Yeah.
know, like if you rely on the grocery store and something happens, you're screwed.
Oh yeah.
I hope you have enough food to last you a couple months, if not longer.
I mean,
if it legitimately comes to where we're at war here in the United States, like you're not gonna have anything.
I don't know. I spent a few grand on like meals that I could prep. That,
I know. I'm
that'll
like,
last for-
I guess I should get some MREs and put them in my
Yeah,
basement.
yeah,
That's what I was
yeah.
about to say. You did that?
Yeah, I
You got a
got.
bunch of non-perishables or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a shit ton in my attic, man. I just like
See,
it'll
I
last for
don't.
years.
And now I'm like, okay, I really need to. I
Yeah.
really need to get it together. So the plan, like I said, is to get a piece of property, to have my house,
Homestead it.
Yeah, homestead it. Yeah, I want to be off the grid. Like I told you, trying to get completely pharmaceutical free because the minute shit goes down, good luck finding. You
Yeah,
know,
that's
the
true.
pharmacy's going to shut down. Everything's going to shut down.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be completely crippled because I can't go to the pharmacy.
I know. I need to figure out how to make my own testosterone.
Well, even the medicine that we take was delayed and was having issues for probably close to a year.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Yeah.
shortages, all kinds of things.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be affected by that.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Well, let's keep trucking
Yeah,
forward. That's
yeah.
all we can do.
No, it's good that she's just saying where she wants to.
No, I agree that. I mean, we want to homestead and like she wants to homeschool. We want to do all that stuff. Like that. We're big on that shit.
So how do I get there is my question. And I'm like, okay, so if I build a brand, because I can't put in a lot of physical labor. I can't wrench on cars. I would love to be able to build my own car, but I just can't. My hands aren't good. Luckily, I have help from my husband. My husband builds bikes, so he tinkers with the cars. He's like, I specialize in motorcycles, but
Yeah.
I'll do what I can. So building a brand, obviously social media, YouTube, all these facets, and getting my hands into all of these forms of income so that I can be financially safe and then build the homestead that I want and then continue to grow as a brand so that I can start helping people.
Yeah.
Like I want to, like I told you, 22-0 is a big driving force for me. Camp Southern Ground is a big driving force for me. They were actually where I believe my my healing journey. A year and a half, 2 years ago, I was in a really bad place. I mean, as close as you can get to offing yourself. Like I was in the shower contemplating, like, I'm done. Like I've pushed through. I'm in pain every day. Like people won't be mad at me. Like they'll understand. It's going to suck for them, but like
Yeah.
I don't really feel bad about this, and I'm just going to do it. And I pictured my husband and my kids finding me and I was like, fuck, I can't do it.
Yeah.
I just can't. Like I watched a friend of ours, he went through a very rare disease that took him like 30 days, like gone. And I'll never forget
This episode is brought to you by Relentless Pursuit. Check us out at relentlesspursuitlifestyle.com for all the apparel and all the different things that we got going on. Also check out our Patreon for exclusive episodes. apparel, all that good stuff. It'd be at patreon.com/The Relentless Pursuit Podcast. It's an exclusive group where we interact with, the audience a little bit more. I do Q&A and different stuff like that. We're getting better and better at it. It's a totally new beast. And that being said, also check us out at Relentless_Pursuit on Instagram, at Relentless Pursuit Relentless Pursuit _HQ on Instagram, and the RP Pod on Instagram. There's a lot of Instagrams going on, but with this podcast, we're putting it out everywhere along with the brand stuff. So check that out, and I will pass it on to you. Yep. First Form, what's up?
First Form. No.
Yeah, come on. Do you got anything you want to advertise?
Yeah, I heavily believe that my journey was started at Camp Southern Ground, and it's campsouthernground.org. They do retreats for veterans and their families.
Sweet.
220.org is the session I did that completely changed my life and saved my life when I wasn't able to get help with the VA. So those are two organizations that I heavily like to promote. And then obviously the Crazy Car Chick, CHIK, at all platforms, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook.
Nice.
Find me.
Plugged. But right when we got cut, you were talking about, possibly attempting suicide or whatnot. No, I'll never forget this one interview I saw with Keanu Reeves, and the guy asked him, he said, "What will happen to you when you die?" And Keanu Reeves just sat there and he said, "The ones that love you will miss you." And that's like always is so fucking simple. And even the interviewer is like, damn, like it's not even that like well thought out. It's just so fucking simple.
It is.
And it hits you, and that's something I think about too, like I've done a lot of crazy stuff, dabbled with some crazy things. And I'm like, man, like why take those unnecessary risks? Like, and leave the ones I love behind in that way, because regardless of, if it really changes anybody's life, they're going to miss me. And I want to be here as long as possible for them. And I remember my therapist said to me something pretty profound Wednesday that hit me as well. And then, I'll give it back to you. But it's important to note, I talked about just working through, like, I need to learn how to cope with my stress and pressures I feel, especially as a man, trying to provide for my family and take on building this business and doing more and more and more. And it's just like, I'm built for it, but it also is a lot of freaking weight. And it really puts me in a bad place mentally sometimes, like little kind of like panic attacks. I feel shit in my chest, it can be pretty bad. And I was like, it is what it is. It's all part of the growth. I said, but I want to at least learn how to cope with these things and handle it better, because I internalize it all too. And he's like, a lot of people talk about being willing to die for their family, but what about living for your family? And I was like, damn, that's a good point, because I don't want the stress to kill me. I don't want to have a freaking heart attack because I'm just so overwhelmed. But at the end of the day, like that's what it comes back to, is like, I want to live for them, but then also give them everything I can. So,
well, and also if you're like tunnel vision and and so stressed out all the time, but like you're doing it for them. But if whatever you're doing keeps you from them, that's also like
the balance.
Counterintuitive.
Yeah.
The balance is the hardest thing,
That's
because you have this passion driving you, but you have passion for your family. And it's like, okay, I need to put this much time in over here, but I need to make sure that they don't feel invisible.
Yeah. And also put time toward yourself, which is the
self-care.
Last thing I know how to do. I was telling him, I was like, we had our wedding, like Lydia and I got married last weekend, and we were in Gatlinburg, and it was just like, I was finally able to unplug after like a day or so. And, just things came to me and And I was like, but I was able to unplug and allow things to just flow. And I felt so good, and when I get together for ritual with my guys, like I do that as well. And he says, well, it sounds like a theme, like you need to unplug more, do things for yourself. And I said, yeah, well, for the wedding, there's a purpose to it, for ritual weekend, there's a purpose to it. Spirituals for my brothers. I said, but when I just like unplug for myself, I feel like I'm fucking doing myself a disjustice. I'm like, I don't deserve this.
But there is a purpose, and the purpose is to keep yourself grounded.
Yeah. And I think that purpose to me is like, I almost feel selfish wanting to do it for myself.
Yeah, it's hard. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I was like, wait, you just got married last weekend? We're just going to skip right past that. So you said Gatlinburg, and that reminds me, like, I'm like you. I've always been go, 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 go. And if I take a break, I feel so guilty. I feel like I could be doing something right now. I could be productive. I could be doing, I need to be doing. So me and my husband, we went to Gatlinburg with a bunch of friends not long ago. And I'm always making plans. I'm like, how many things can we do? Like in Gatlinburg, 1 million, right? So I'm like, every hour has to be filled. And so for the first time, I was like, okay, what if we just hang out at the cabin, and like let everybody go do their thing, because they went and did all the Gatlinburg stuff. Yeah. We spent 2 days on the deck, like overlooking the mountains and just talking.
That's really all I wanted to do.
And I want more of it. Like I thought, oh, this is going to be boring. Like I'm going to be off in my head thinking about other stuff. And I was like, it was the best relaxation. I felt more focused when I left, like your brain needs that. It needs time to just relax. Yeah. And it's almost like people are so willing to go to the gym and to, pump iron, do this, do that, go to work, and it's like, this is part of going to the gym, for your brain. Yeah. Like you have to relax.
Exactly.
It's a necessity. It's not an extra.
Yeah, relaxing. Oh, what is that?
We'll jump back and tell your story. I do just want to put a little cherry on the top of that. You got to be loyal to yourself first.
Yes.
You have to. You know what I'm saying? It's like you talk about with
cherry.
It's like you talk about with Ozzy, and you're like, the relationship with Lydia comes first because of the ripple down effect, and that's why she's here and all this stuff. Yeah. But like Lydia wouldn't be here and Ozzy wouldn't be here without you. You still have to be loyal to yourself first. If you're not doing well, then you're not doing well for them either.
You can't pour from an empty cup.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
So
working on it.
It sounds like it's selfish.
Being proactive.
It sounds like it's selfish to say you have to be loyal to yourself first, but actually it's not, because if you're taking care of yourself, you're better for the people you care about.
Yeah. No, I agree 110%. It's like I was telling my therapist, it's like I'm aware of what I need to do.
Yeah.
But like, how do I fucking do it? Without freaking out. And that's the thing. And that's where we're working towards. So, down the road, I'll be giving y'all, letting y'all know where I'm at. So anyways, you were talking about you were in a dark freaking place.
Yeah, man. I learned a lot about the mental health system in that time, because I think it was 3 months. Like legitimately, I kind of wish I would have recorded it, but I was on my phone, so I couldn't. But, I was literally screaming at these people on the phone, like, I need help. I'm about to give up. I don't have time. Like just literally trying to tell them, like, if I don't get help, I'm going to kill myself. Like I need it now. And every minute felt like an hour, and every hour felt like a day. Every day felt like a year. Like it was just, time was just, it's almost like I hear the time ticking, and it's like tick, 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 tick. Like, when's the help coming? Mm-hmm. And it didn't come. I reached out to the VA, and I went to the emergency room, told them what was happening. They sent me to the mental health annex, and they gave me 2 options. So you lock yourself up for 4 days. And I was like, I have a family that depends on me. I can't do that. And I know there's a chance you're going to force me to take some sort of tranquilizers, or, who knows what you're going to do if I allow you to take my freedom. Not going to do that. Mm-hmm. And then my second option was to call them back in 3 days. So I waited. That was like the longest 3 days ever. Like just waiting and waiting.
Interesting.
And when I called, this woman gave me her personal number. I called all day. She never picked up the phone. And here I'm thinking, they want me to kill myself. They want me, I'm a paycheck, and they want to cut me loose. Like, that's where I was. And I don't remember a whole lot about life in that moment. Like I'm pretty sure I let everything go. Like there was no dishes getting done, no laundry getting done. And, my husband did the best he could, but he was working full time. Like the house is falling, everything's falling apart around me. And my saving grace, one of our good friends, my husband's best friend, him and his wife found 22-0, and they had mentioned they went through it. They're both very busy business owners, very stressed, very stressful environment. And they did it to help them deal with, that kind of stress. And they said, hey, Tia's a veteran. Have her reach out to these people And I was very doubtful. I've been through so much therapy. Okay, I started therapy when I was 11. That was the first time I ever thought about committing suicide. Was when I was 11 years old. And so I was like, you know what? What do I have to lose? Like, I've called every mental health facility in the area. None of them can get me in within 3 weeks. 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks. And I'm like, I don't have that kind of time.
Yeah.
So I reached out to 220 on their website. I submitted a request. I think it was the same day. They were like, "Hey, we'll set you up with a coach, and they'll get your intake stuff." And I was like, "Okay, whatever." Filled out all the intake stuff, and they were like, "Okay, in like 2 days, we're gonna do a session with you." I was like, 2 days, I can do this. Two more days. And it was an hour-long video chat. And when it started, I was completely hysterical. We had to take a lot of breaks because you can't move forward in the process while you're triggered. And that's the whole point, is to retrain your brain to get out of being triggered.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of breaks where I had to just breathe and get myself collected. And the best part about the session, and the reason why I tell a lot, especially veterans, and most veterans being men that don't like to talk about the things they've been through. They don't want to rehash it because a lot of times that brings back triggers and negativity, all this stuff. They got to relive it. Nobody wants to do that. So this session was created by a veteran that had a brain injury, had a lot of PTSD. And he said, how can we get through this? Like, how can we get through this without the rehashment that most therapy requires? Because I was looking into what is that one with the lights where you get desensitized, and I can't
I forget
you know
the
what
name
I'm talking
of that.
about.
I do. Yeah.
But you have to basically rehash it, and then they desensitize you. So it can take months, it can take years. It does work, but it is a very in-depth, stressful process, and so she tells me, she's like, you don't have to say anything. You don't have to talk about any of your past. You don't have to talk about any specific details. Everything is very vague. It's more or less a visualization and breathing technique that turns there's a switch, I like to say, takes you from fight or flight mode, which I had been in for 40 years, like from the time I was born. I've even found out that I was probably affected by my mom's cortisol in pregnancy because she was already in a very high stress situation. So I was born in fight or flight mode from the start, and my life was so chaotic, I never came out.
I just want to jump in real quick. It's called EMDR.
EMDR,
and
yes.
I did that.
So
I've done that before.
I was really trying to get into EMDR before this, and I'm glad that I was able to find this instead because it's so quick, it's so simple, and it's so effective. It's 100% effective with anybody that has severe trauma or PTSD. All of their studies show the numbers. The numbers don't lie. So they took me through this session, and I was at, like if it's a 1 through 100, I was at 100 on the trigger scale. She told me at the end of my session that I would probably be, I would feel exhausted, because your body has gone through, like there's, cortisol and all these stress hormones and, like 40 years. But I had no idea what was to come. I slept for 3 days. I thought that they literally broke my brain with this session, and I actually contacted them, and I was like, dude, you fucking broke me.
With the EMDR?
No, with the 220 session.
Oh,
okay. When I got done with it, she told me I would be tired and to allow myself to sleep if I felt tired.
And that's just from talking to them.
That's just this talking.
See, Wednesday, I felt like that after my session. I was like,
it's emotional. It's like emotional exhaustion.
So what it really is this, whatever, and I hate that I don't know all the technical terms, but if you go to their website, you can see exactly what the session is. It's a combination of 2 sessions. What it does, like I said, it flips that switch. So my switch was flipped. I'm no longer in fight or flight mode, so my body is running off of its own energy for the first time. So I slept for 3 days, and I called and I was like complaining, like I'm basically lethargic. Like I have no motivation. I don't want to do anything. Like I feel completely blank right now. And she said, well, you have to understand your mind is resting for the first time in 40 years. And that's huge. And so I was like, okay. She's like, be patient. The best part about this is this is not the finality of it. Your brain will now develop and grow in a whole new way. And so it's a process after you shut down the fight or flight.
Yeah.
So it was, I would say, 3 months of learning how to live, learning how to be motivated by my own demeanor, not being motivated by fear or by anxiety or by, all of it. I've got to mention, I had 40 years of nightmares. From the time I was little until I was 40 years old, I had nightmares every night. I slept an average of 2 or 3 hours. And so I think one of the driving forces for me working all the time was I didn't want to go sleep. I haven't had any nightmares since I did that session.
Damn.
It's been over a year. I don't have nightmares. I don't worry about people coming up behind me. I do still tend to sit, like if I'm in a public place, I do tend to sit facing the door, which is a military thing usually. But I'm not sitting there making a plan. I'm not sitting there thinking someone's going to come in here any minute with a gun. I had that the worst case scenario paranoia everywhere. Like if I was shopping with my kids, I would constantly be holding them close to me and watching my back. If somebody came close to my back for some reason, I thought they were going to stab me or something. It was just constant.
Yeah.
Just constant, on the ready, I'm ready to attack somebody.
I relate to a lot of what you're saying.
And
same.
Funny thing, I love going to Goodwill, right? Because I love a bargain. And I remember going to Goodwill. This was, I think it was, about 6 months, enough time had gone by. I'm going shopping and I'm looking through clothes and I just stopped and I was like, what am I doing? I haven't looked around. I haven't freaked out. I'm like, what is this life? So I tell everyone, I don't care if you're a veteran, if you're a civilian, if, everybody's been through something that has had an effect on them. Mm-hmm. Whether it's an accident, whether it's a bad relationship with a parent, whether it's been abuse from the time you were little, and you've tried to go through therapy and kind of get through that. But until you flip that switch, there's a certain part of you that's always going to be triggered by those memories.
Yeah.
And I tell everybody, I'm like, go do this session. I don't care who you are. I believe that it could revolutionize the mental health system because, like I said, if a kid is traumatized at 8, but they don't seek help in therapy until they're in their 20s because they're an alcoholic and they're taking Oxycontin to try to, not think about this thing that happened to them when they were 9 years old.
Yeah.
Had that 9-year-old been decompressed, their whole life would have been different. If I would have been decompressed before I went into the military, because I had a massively traumatic childhood and in high school. In high school, I was being bullied by my mom every night. And then I was going to high school and being bullied by kids. I was never safe.
Yeah. And
I took that into the military. So I was in this victim mindset of, that's why a lot of people got away with the things they did. I was too scared to stand up for myself.
Yeah.
If I was sexually harassed, I was like, oh, well, just try to, it is what it is. And I didn't realize until recently how much a lot of my military stuff, I tried to just put it past me. I didn't even talk about being a veteran. I never asked for any sort of veteran benefits. I just wanted to put it behind me. And it wasn't until I started talking to other veterans and I was like, oh my God, all this stuff I'd been through has really fucked me up. Damn. And, and I started talking about things and I was like, those things were really bad. I tried to play them off. It was just part of it. You drink water, take some ibuprofen and move on.
Yeah.
And so going through all that now, I'm like, I'm a badass. It's no longer poor me, I'm, try to make myself small.
Yeah.
It's finally pulling off that shell and being like,
Yeah.
dude, I'm a badass.
You're like, this is part of who I am.
Yeah. And I don't want to shy away from it. Like, I don't want to just put it behind me. Like, I want to connect with people. There's so many people that have similar stories. And when the minute you open up, that's when people reach out. Like, I've gotten crap from people. Like, you share way too much on social media. You don't need to share that many details. And I'm like, but when I do, there's always at least one person that reaches out to me and they're like, I really needed to hear that. Like, I've had something that most people don't know is I have peer counseled probably 10,000 people on Facebook.
Damn.
It's a lot of people.
If I see somebody's like, I can't do this anymore. A lot of people are like, oh, we'll pray for you, whatever. I'm like, no, this person is on the edge. So I reach out to them. I don't know who they are. I just seen red flag. This person is in danger. Mm-hmm. Hey, man, I get you. Like, I've been there. What do you need? Most of the time, they just need somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
And I'll talk to them, and I'm not gonna say it has affected my relationship because my husband's like, you're always on your phone. I'm like, well, this person's about talking about suicide. I can't just not do something.
Yeah.
And I'm learning how to balance, because it used to be 24/7. I used to make myself available anytime, 2:00 in the morning, somebody was like, hey, I really need to talk. It was all the time. I was always available. And so now I'm like, okay, I don't reach out to every single person. I just can't.
Yeah, you can't. I mean,
but I put myself out there and I put these resources out there and I'm like, hey, if you're not comfortable, like I'm meeting a veteran tomorrow that saw me on the news. If you're not comfortable reaching out yet, talk to me. We can meet for coffee. I want to make sure that you get the help you need because I was there and I don't want anybody to be in that place. Like, that sucks. Like, that's the worst place ever. Like, when your whole life shuts down and you're just in it. Like, it's just like
suffocating.
You're drowning. You're literally like hand out of the water. This is it. I'm about to say goodbye. Everything that I've done up to this point is not going to matter.
Yeah.
And if all it takes is for me being on podcasts and sharing on Facebook and inspiring people to go get help, then
you can save some lives.
Why not?
Yeah, why the hell not? Yeah, it's one thing to be like obsessed with it and like, constantly on your phone because that takes away from, the things that are important in your life.
Well, my kids, and I hate looking back. I spent probably 5 or 6 years on bed rest from my disability. And I got so involved in my phone because I couldn't walk. Like, there was points in my life where my husband literally had to pick me out of bed, take me to the bathroom, pick me up, put me on the couch, and set the remote in my hand so at least I could sit there and watch TV. And that was my day. Like, I'd literally sit there and rot for years.
Yeah.
And so my phone became my savior. I was able to talk to people. I was able to help people. And that's where the obsession with the counseling came in.
Yeah.
Because I don't have anything to do. I don't see outside. I don't see people, and it was a good thing and a bad thing. It saved me because I had an outlet. But then it took a lot of time away from my kids. My kids, I'm not going to lie, my kids got probably, ignored a lot at those points because, I was like, hey, I had toddlers at the time and not being able to walk and having a toddler run around, I would just set food out. I would get myself and I would make them a smorgasbord and just let them run free like animals because I was like, I can't do nothing. But they became very independent. Like, my 9-year-old, she knows how to cook. And, they get a lot more of me now, now that I'm in a better place. I'm very involved with my kids. We go do a lot of stuff, what I can. I would love to take them to the zoo, but, I can't walk that much.
Yeah.
And the scooter thing they got there is like $40 to rent it. And I'm like, you got me paying for the zoo and $40 for that. So,
well, and the thing is, though, that you had that realization before it was too late because a lot of people will go their whole life, being too busy for their kids and then totally miss that experience as a whole. So at least you were able to step away from that, and now you're a lot more present, which is
Yeah,
positive thing.
and finding the balance, like we'd already talked about, finding the balance between your passion for whatever it is that you have, like business, fitness, all these things that you have that make you happy, and balancing it with the family that makes you happy, and making sure that your kids grow up to be these balanced adults. That's the biggest thing that I was lacking when I was growing up. It was infused in me to become a negative person and to not strive and take care of myself. So I try to look and see, okay, what did I grow up with? What were some things I learned? How can I instill it in these young adults? Because this is the future. Like, how do we make the world a better place? We develop children into good people. And the mental health thing is why, to me, mental health is number one. A lot of the problems that we have in the world are derived from mental health problems. A lot of the shootings that we have, almost everybody has been, diagnosed with mental health issues.
Yep.
And everybody wants to come to, it's a gun problem. And I'm like, no, there's a lot of people out there with guns that don't hurt people. The people that hurt people are hurt people.
Yep.
And so if we can focus on mental health and quit worrying about all this other stuff, there's a lot of distractions out there, social media and everything. If we can focus on mental health, that's where the big change is going to come.
Yeah. And guys, it doesn't make you any less tough
true.
if you work on your mental health shit. You know what I'm saying? And
no, it's one of the biggest things, biggest strengths.
Yes.
Is to be self-aware.
Yes.
And to tackle it.
Yeah.
We are humans. Our brains are not machines. And this stuff happens,
It does.
Everything that happens outside of the world, out the news, all that stuff, it has an impact on us. Everything that happens in our home life has an impact on us. Your job, your finances, everything affects your brain. And just like when you go to the doctor, one thing I never understand is, like, from the time you're born, they're worried about injecting you with vaccines. They're worried about checking your growth. They're worried about checking your weight. They don't check your brain.
Nope.
Until it's broken. And then it's a lot of work to fix it.
Yeah.
And so my idea and, how can I change the world in a big way that I've wanted to do since I was a kid is, how do we get people doing checkups on their brain and all of these innovative ways? Like neurofeedback is a big one that I'm working on getting into. The woman I've talked to about it is like, it's like going to the gym, but for your brain. There's all these neurons and stuff that are weak or dead, and if you do these, stimulations for your brain, it can strengthen them. It can regrow things that weren't working, and all of these mental health issues that people have. From the research I've done, it looks like at least 80 to 90% can be fixed in a natural way without pharmaceuticals.
Exactly.
And go ahead.
I was going to say too, and I'm going to chime in and say psychedelics are pretty, personally for me, I've done a lot of work on, like, mushroom trips and, and stuff like that. And even I've done ayahuasca.
Yeah.
But the amount of work that psychedelics can do. I was talking to my therapist actually, because, going back to school and whatnot for clinical psychology. And he said, that's going to be something I see a lot of in the curriculum.
Yep.
Like the clinical side is bridging into the psychedelics a lot too, which I find pretty fascinating. And it'll be cool because I'll have input due to like personal experience.
Yep.
But yeah, you confront a lot of shit there, but
there's like therapist guided psychedelic trips.
yeah.
Well, and microdosing too. Like, I've heard phenomenal things, and of course, with where we're at right now, it's like you can't just go on Facebook and be like, "Hey, who wants to help me microdose?"
Yeah.
And so then it comes into research, and there's a lot of places that are like, "Hey, we can change your life, but it's only like $6,000," and it's like, okay, I don't have $6,000, so, and being safe about it. I've actually found a couple places on Instagram, and then like at the last minute, I was like, do I really want to try buying psychedelics from somebody off of Instagram? Probably not.
Probably not.
I haven't found that connection yet, but I'm open. Like you said, I don't have a degree. I'm not interested in going back to school, but I am interested in is trying all of these natural ways to remold my brain into a fully functioning, thing naturally without pharmaceuticals, in every way possible, and helping build a program to where people are diagnosed through, figuring out what's wrong with their brain and figuring out how to fix it, and not just being like, hey, you have these issues. Let's try you on this medication and see what happens.
Yeah.
I've done that so many times, and I feel like the damage to your brain when you don't need those things, like some of them put me in psychosis. Some of them made me like suicidal.
Mm-hmm.
And you wonder why people don't want to do that. They're like, well, you really need to try a different medication.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm done with that. Like,
It's money.
The stuff you're doing isn't working. I'm going to look at a different avenue. And if this doesn't work, maybe I'll come back, but probably not. Because like I'm 22 years in pharmaceutical industry. I'm over it. Like it's money.
All right. So we were talking about
a million things.
A million things, yeah. And you were talking about how you wanted to help people and, work on setting up a program for them to work on their mind and everything like that. And, I think there's a lot of things that fall into that too. Obviously being proactive with, like stuff like 22-0 and whatnot. I also find it to be very important to be like physically active. That's a huge thing. That's therapy for me, just different stuff like that. I think there's so many parts of it, of mental health too. Me, for like a spiritual pursuit, no matter what you believe in, but something, having something higher that provides a whole nother purpose. Me having ritual and like doing all that. I think a lot of all those things play a part in the, keeping this correct too,
So you mentioned programs. So the next, I guess, one of the next big things that I'm taking on is building an adrenaline program for veterans here in Nashville, because I was trying to find one. They have them all over the U.S. There's nothing here, and there's a lot of need for it. There's 3 VAs within 30 miles of each other. There's a big car community here. And so I was like, it just makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, so how do I do this? I have like a Walt Disney brain, so I think like huge, immediately, and everybody laughs at me, and I'm like, no, this is real. Like there's a need. There's a need.
Happen.
It's going to happen. I'm like, but how am I going to do it? And I'm like, well, the most expensive way to do it would be to build a facility. So I'm start meeting with planners on how to build a automotive sport facility where I can train people and get veterans and start like a membership program. And then I'm like, here recently, I reached out to Slide Factory, is where I got started with drifting, and like they close the track down in the winter. Like, yeah, pretty much. So that track, who knows how much they spent building that thing. It's just sitting there. And I'm like, So now I'm like, what if I partner this adrenaline program for veterans with the track and Slide Factory? We get some people that can train, and it's not open to the public, which should help with insurance, because insurance is big when you've got all these public people coming in.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, so we get a tire sponsor, we get some cars, and we get veterans out on the track, because I'm telling you, I started March 5th was my first event doing autocross. And even my husband, like I came home and my husband immediately looked at me and he said, you need to do this all the time. And I was like, yeah, I agree with you. It's fun. He's like, you're a different person. Like you're standing taller. You're less agitated. You look like you're in the zone. And I'm like, I think I've discovered that, especially when you've lived a traumatic life, you've gone through the military life, you're so used to running at this high velocity of adrenaline, and when that's taken away, you feel depressed. You don't feel motivated. You just don't have that.
Yeah. And
the minute, before I started racing, I had gone to the drag strip, and that's when it really piqued me. I was there for 4 hours, and I was screaming the whole time. Like I was just in it, just 100 miles an hour. Like, this is amazing. And then as soon as I left, I was like, I wish I could live there. I want to be part of this, and I don't know anybody. I'm just nobody with my phone walking around, and then reached out. I go to Cars and Coffee here in Nashville. I've been going for like 3 years, and I'm like, how do I get into the car scene? How do I do this? Because this is motivating me. Like,
But that was like a brand new thing. That wasn't something you grew up like wanting to do. Or?
So I'll try to do this quick as possible. Okay, so in my 20s is when I first realized that I was into car stuff. I had somebody take me to the track, and then I purchased an '04 Mystic Chrome Cobra. I paid $24,000 for it back in '05, and they're worth like $120,000. That was very, one-off kind of deal. I street raced in Memphis. I did donuts. I was like hoonigan, like, just like balls to the wall. I revved my car at everybody. Like, it didn't matter if you had a shit box. Like, I was like, hi, I have a cool car. So like in my 20s, now had a kid, and like you said, like you put them first. You're like, ooh, this is a little dangerous. Like, I'm just gonna. So I literally just like locked it away. I was like, that's not for me. I'm a mom. 20 years, 20-some years ago. And went back, like I said, last year I went to the drag strip, and I was like, I had brought this up. I had been an artist my whole life. That was my thing. Like, that was my identity. I'm an artist. From the time I was little, I was just above and beyond anything you can imagine. I did it all. I did painting, sculpting, murals, tattooing, graphic design, photography, video. Like, I've done it all. But with losing my hands, I went through this identity crisis. I was like, I'm done. My life is over. This is all I've ever done. I can't do anything else. Like, I have to keep doing this. I was starting to think, well, I guess I'm going to have to paint with my mouth, or, like I'm going to have to figure out a way to do it without my hands. And I started trying to train myself with my left hand. And I was like, I'm not going to spend the next however long trying to train myself I'm not having fun. I don't like this. Like, it's frustrating because, like, I look like a toddler, because I wanted to keep tattooing. That was a lifelong dream of mine. I got to do it. I got to do it for 2 years, and I could have been one of the best tattooers in the world. Nobody will disagree. And so I went through a few months of massive depression because I was like, I was actually looking into get my hand amputated at one point because it hurt so bad. And it was like I said, internally I was dead. Like, I was done. And I was ready to just be like, you know what, I'll just be a mom. I'll wash dishes and clean clothes, and this will be my life. And then I ran into the TRSCCA at Cars and Coffee, and it was February of this year. And dude, I had struggled with all the male issues that I've had with men, being sexist towards me and stuff like that, especially in the car community when I was younger. I was really nervous, and like I almost didn't go up to them because it was a whole tent full of dudes, and I'm like, they're gonna laugh at me. Like, I have a stock GTI, I have nothing to offer. I'm gonna have to put a bunch of money into this.
What's like, the TRSCCA?
TRSCCA is a Tennessee Region SCCA. So SCCA is the Sports Car Club of America. This is like one of the biggest organizations for racing, and they do, autocross, road course, rally cross, all aspects of it. And so I walk up to this tent, and I'm like, what do I need to do to get into racing? Do I have to have something done to my car? Like, you just need a helmet that's verified for this. And it's like, well, my car's stock. And they're like, we have a class for that. And I was like, okay. So they told me, I said, show up in March. We're having our first kind of like a test and tune for autocross. And I'm telling you, like, I was so nervous. Like, I was like, I'm showing up. I don't know how to do this. Like, I don't, like, I hate being new.
Yeah.
Like, I hate being a new guy. And so I was like, but you know what? This is fun. Like, this got to be fun. It's adrenaline. And as soon as I got in there, and I got my first run in, and I'm skirting around trying not to hit cones, and I was like, this is awesome. Like, it only costs like $60 to do an event, and with autocross, your tires last. You can go through like one set of tires through the whole season.
Yeah.
But my car started having issues. I got to do 3 events. And of course, life is just full of punches. I start having issues with my car. Don't have a lot of money to put into it to fix it. So I'm like, how do I stay relevant in the car community with no car? Like I'll
Yeah,
start.
that seems like that would be difficult to
Right?
do. To do.
Right?
Yeah.
I got one, I swear.
So I have a car.
Let me race.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
like show up in your Uber.
Yeah.
Like my car is back there.
Yeah. So I'm like, how do you stay relevant in the car community with no car? And so I was like, I went to a Slide Factory event, and it was actually, I ran a couple laps, and that's when I really like gave up on my car. It was beeping. There's all kind. I'm like, just put it aside. And I started talking to the owner of Slide Factory, and I was like, can I ride in? You guys are drifting. Like, I want to do that. Like, can I go in that car? You know, can you take me for a ride? He's got, cool graphics, Slide Factory Corvette. Yeah, man. I'll take you for a ride. Took me for a ride. Autocross what? I mean, I hate to say it.
Explain to people what drifting is, because some people may have no clue what you're talking about.
So drifting.
There's a movie they can reference.
Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift.
Yeah. So drifting is controlled chaos. Like you are spinning tires, but you are actually controlling the direction of the car. So you slide and burn tires the whole time once you lock in. And so I rode the first time with just the owner, and then my second lap, he's like, we're going to do a tandem, which is where two cars chase each other while they're sliding sideways. It was one of his students that he had trained who'd been drifting for about 2 years. Never done a tandem with him before. And I'm going to ride in the passenger seat. And I'm like, okay, we're doing this. Did it. And I'm filming everything with my phone. Like, I didn't bust out my real camera at first because I didn't know how to edit. I knew how to make, easy app editing on your phone so quick, so easy. So I did everything on my phone. I'm videoing, whatever. We bump, and I'm like, ooh, that was crazy, but it wasn't, it wasn't painful. It was like, oh, it's not a big deal. So I was like, I can do this. My car sucks, but so that's what I did. I went to every single event that I could go to. And I brought my helmet. I went and bought a helmet specifically for that stuff. And I brought my helmet, and I'm telling you, I walked for hours sometimes, basically begging people to take me in their car. I'm like, hey, I want to make video. And they're like, yeah, I bet you do. But now, like I said, I started back in March. So it's been, 7 months, something like that. Now, when I show up, people are like, hey, you want to go out? You ready to go get some video? And I'm like, yeah, dude. And I've at one of these events, I think I spent close to 5 or 6 hours just sliding on the track.
Nice.
And it's the greatest feeling in the world for me. Like, I'm so happy. Like, the minute I get there, I'm just like, we haven't even started yet.
I want to do it. I want to go.
You gotta come out and do it, man.
I'll get in there.
Like, oh, it's and the thing is, a lot of people are like, oh, you're nuts. You don't even know these people. So I have a plan of action when I go. I watch each car. I watch their style. I watch to see if they're controlled. I watch them do a couple laps, and then I go up to them and I ask them. I say, how long have you been doing this? Have you ever had any big accidents? Kind of give them a little thing. And haven't had any issues with, trouble. Everything's been great.
Yeah.
I just want to say real quick, I used to watch on YouTube all the time, Ken Block.
Oh, don't
Drifting
make
videos.
me cry.
I used to watch him all the time.
So you mentioned that. So when I got into doing all this, my first plan, like my big bucket list thing, I wanted to meet Ken Block. I was going to make him my best friend, and we were going to start racing together or
Do you know who that
drifting
is?
together.
I've heard the name.
So March, is it the beginning of, was it February, I think, is when he passed away.
This year?
So
He's like a legend when it comes to that, right?
one of the
Yes,
best
yes.
drivers
You'll
in
ever see
the
in your
world.
life.
I mean, if you just look him up and watch a couple videos of his time in Japan.
I was thinking about him earlier when you were talking about the guy that was sliding past you, like right in front of you, because in that, like, I mean, a lot of it's impressive, but the coolest thing to me is whenever he comes. I mean, dude, he's going however fast, flying around a corner, drifting around a corner, and his tailpipe.
Yes.
I mean, it's like this close, and but it's not like he just does a real quick move and then that was it the whole time.
The whole
I mean,
time.
he'll fly down the whole
Yeah,
wall.
yeah.
this
Yeah.
close,
It's
like
pretty
an
nuts.
inch away. It's perfection. It's artwork. It's art.
Yeah, the control. And that's the thing I think that drives me so much is just it's controlled chaos.
Yep.
And it there's not a lot of things with me being like heavily ADHD, possibly autistic. Like I haven't gotten to that point where I've been able to get all of the diagnoses or anything like that. But reading into it, I'm like, my brain definitely functions completely different than most people. And there's not a lot of things that will take me away from everything, you know, like to give me 100% focus.
Yeah.
And driving, and I'm guessing it's the fear factor, the danger factor. There's nothing in this world. Like there could be bombs blowing up outside the gates. I'm focused on that road.
So locked in.
I'm focused on the road.
It'd make a better video.
Like,
The bombs
the
in
bombs
there.
are going.
true.
We're sliding. You know, we're just going
Yeah.
sliding.
I think this should happen.
So like I said, my main goal is to build my brand and to build this organization, bring a bunch of companies together that can make it happen. Because obviously, I had to pick one of the most expensive hobbies out there. Drifting,
Naturally.
you go through a lot of tires.
Which are not cheap.
No, which are not cheap. So we need tire sponsors for sure. But I haven't been one to be into anything that was expensive ever in my life. I've never been a bougie. I've never been into any expensive clothes. I don't collect shoes. You know, I've never been one to spend money. But when you find something that brings you so much joy and so much passion, it's like, you know what? It could cost $1 million. I'm going to figure out how to make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's proactive.
And
it's not like buying a freaking bag or some shoes, you know. It's actually
just gonna go sit in the closet.
It actually has some value. You
well,
know?
and it's purely therapeutic, and a lot of people don't want to put that word on things. You know, you need a doctor to register this before you can say it's therapeutic. There's a lot of programs out there for adrenaline, and the first thing they talk about is therapeutic, especially for anybody that's got PTSD or any sort of mental health issues. The adrenaline boosts your endorphins, boost your all those good
feeling
all
stuff.
the good
Serotonin
feeling
and stuff.
serotonin. There you go.
Yeah.
I struggle with words sometimes, but you know what I mean. Like all the chemicals that make your brain work better, function better, make you happier. It's all there.
Yeah, everybody has their outlets to do that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, me with the fighting stuff, like even Lydia's like, you need another fight because I've had one since last year, and she can tell, you know,
Yep.
when I need something like that, because it is this rush and this thing that I just really find a lot of joy in.
And
Afterward, I'm just like, fuck yeah, you know, it feels so good.
Yeah, well, like she was saying too about the lock and the laser focus, you know, the tunnel vision. It's like whenever you're fighting, when you're sparring, even it's like you have to be so you have to. Or this dude's gonna take your head off.
Yep.
And so I told Margaret several times. I was like, particularly when you're actually sparring, you know, it's like I don't know if I've ever found something that shuts my brain off completely like that, because it's like I'm paying attention to the way your fucking elbows twitching, and like I'm so locked in to you top to bottom that it's like you don't have a choice. Like you said, it's like nothing else can get in.
Which is funny because when I'm at home and being a stay-at-home mom and a homemaker and no boss, that's rough. Like I know in my head there's 8 million things that need to be done.
I hear you on that one.
And I'm just like, what do I do?
It's part of why I got a building.
You know, like what do I do? I've got dishes that need to be done. I've got videos that need to be edited, and
It's so much that you do nothing.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Oh, I get frozen all the time. I'm like, if I can't decide, guess what? Time for my phone. Like I'm just gonna sit here and
definitely get that
eventually it'll come to me, and I'm like, maybe if I drink a cup of coffee, I'm gonna get motivated, and then I'm gonna go do all these things, and it's like
Somebody said, I don't know where I can't remember if this was in a book or not, but somebody saw something that said, and backed it up too, it's very interesting, about how the motivation, the action comes first. And then the action creates motivation to continue the action. But a lot of people are waiting for the motivation first, and that's not how it goes. Mm-hmm. You have to act first, then that builds the motivation, which allows you to continue to act. So.
Well, the best part about building this brand is that I know that there's people out there that are dependent on me. You know, like I did this stunt show with Slide Factory. I reached out to him. I said, hey, I met these motorcycle riders that do stunts, and I think it would be cool to like have them put on like a little show. can we get like a piece of the parking lot? And he was like, I'll do you one better. He said, we're changing the track over. You got about a 30-minute window. And I was like, okay, you know, I've never done this. Like, I don't know what stunt shows are. You know, I've watched them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we'll figure it out, you know? And so I reached out to the guys and I was like, hey, you guys want to put on a show at the Slide Factory event? Of course, you know, they're, heck yeah, man, we get to get on the big track and, you know, whatever. 2 days prior, 3 out of 4 bikes drop out. Nice. After I had already had everything in place, money became an issue. I was like, we've already discussed that this is kind of like a collaboration. I don't have a budget right now, but I have a big outlet. You know, I've got news stuff coming, like this stuff's coming. And this is going to be great content. So let's do it. You know, let's make it happen. They dropped out, and I thought 2 days prior, I'm like, I just built this relationship with this guy, and now I get to tell him that it's not happening. And I'm like, I can't do that. So I'm, the one guy that's left, I'm like, can we do this? Like, can we make this happen? He's like, I'll get you some guys. And I'm like, okay, please do. And then I reach out to Mac Vader, which is a semi-truck that drifts and races.
Whoa.
Yeah. And so I was like, if you want to come be part of this show, because I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm like, if you want to be part of the show, I'll get you on the track. And at first he's like, I don't think I can make it happen. I'm, you know, okay, whatever. So the day before it comes down, I'm like, now I got 5 motorcycles, I got a semi-truck, and then the last minute, as we're actually starting the event, the owner of Slide Factory jumps in with his Corvette. And I didn't even know. I was told to stand in the middle of the track and just stand still. I didn't know what was gonna happen. Here comes this Corvette 6 inches from my feet, and like there was a split second where I was like, what am I doing? Like, I looked down, and he's like, you never look down. And I was like, but that was the coolest view, like, ever, to look down and see the tip of a Corvette 6 inches from my feet. And I was like, this is nuts. But then I stood up tall, and I was like, you're doing this, man. Like, you talked about it, you talked about how much you want to do with cars. And there's 100 people out there watching you right now, realizing they probably want to be in your footsteps right now.
Yeah.
And so I stood up, and I was like, he's been doing this for a long time. He can probably do a donut around a Coke can. Like, that's how much control he has. So I just stood there, I put my arms up, and I was like, I'm doing this. And then when he went away, and I've got it all on video, which is awesome, you just see me just like, I can't believe I just did this. Like, this is insane. And I was like, here I'm thinking, I'm like, the video is going to be awesome. You know, the videos, the content we have is amazing. And I was like, this is going to build. You know, this is going to let people know how serious I am about this.
Yeah.
And boom. Like, right now, and I don't know how many people have felt it, but when you go through life, you know, 12 years I've been grinding. 24 hours, you know, just grinding. Like, I have these big dreams, I have all this. Don't have the money. You know, money's always that hurdle. Like, if you have money, you can do whatever you want. You can go get a building, you can go get some cars, you can do whatever you want. But if you're not one of those people that has money, you have to hustle and you have to figure out how to get the money to do the thing. And right now, I'm in that pivotal moment where people are coming to me. People I've reached out to in the past, and they're like, I have a story. You really ought to, you know, crickets, you know, lots of, yeah, maybe, whatever. Lots of no's, you know, you hear that a lot too. Lots of no's. And now, you know, I get magazine reach out to me saying, we want your story. Like, we think this can inspire a lot of people. I'm like, finally, you know, like, finally it's happening, and I'm just trying to, like, soak it in right now. Like, this is the moment where everything changes, and I'm overwhelmed. It's so much. Like, I'm not an organized person. You know, the ADD part of me is just all over the place. But I'm like, who can I bring into my circle that can help me wrangle all this together? Because I'm not the person. I'm not the one that needs to be in charge of the business. I need to be the face. I need to be driving, speaking. And I've told people that all the time. They're like, well, you're just going to have to learn how to do the business. No, because it'll never be successful. No. You know, I'm self-aware enough to know that's not my place.
Yeah.
And eventually, when you have enough momentum, somebody's going to come on. Because, you know, people are like, well, how much are you going to pay me? I don't have any money right now, but guess what? I've been on the news twice in the last 30 days. I got magazines coming. I've got sponsors coming. It's about to happen. Do you want to be in it at the ground? Or do you want to wait until I build it and then I don't have a place for you? Because, like...
Yeah, a lot of people lack vision. You know, we've talked about that a lot of times. I mean, just with this and, you know, opportunities that have fallen through or maybe, you know, worked out, but it's just, you know, like Logan shares the vision, like we're in this together, you know, with the podcast. You know, we've gotten quite a few guests on here. We've got people flying in from, you know, out of state. We got someone flying in from Vegas Friday just to come be on the podcast, right? And, but, you know, trying to get people to see what you see is a pretty difficult task, but it's like, all right, well, when the opportunity arises and you want in, I'm going to be like, man,
I tried to
somebody
get
else
you.
for that.
Like
you know?
I tried to get you, and now we have our people. Like,
yeah, that's cool.
Don't come in when it's already the work's been done.
Exactly.
You know?
I was just gonna say, you usually ask that your question. I mean, I feel like that's pretty much everything she's been saying is that, you know, what her pursuit is. But if you'd like to ask your question, and then I do have something I want to read at some point. We got a couple minutes. If you want to ask it, you don't have to.
Oh
She
yeah,
pretty much did.
I do. Yeah, and I do gotta ask this because you know I ask everybody, but I feel like you pretty much said it already. But if you want to put it into different terms, what is your relentless pursuit?
Like I said, have fun and help people.
I love it.
You know, well, Ken Block had a really good one. It's like, be creative, be a good person, and have fun.
Yeah.
You know, like,
I love that.
you know, like, it's so simple. Like, I used to think, and I think I was trying to prove something to people growing up and having that low self-esteem and being like, I was told I was not, you know, the greatest things. So I need to have a big house and I need to have all the money and I need to do these things, and I get into it and you find a true passion and a true purpose. I don't need all those things.
Yeah.
I need a place, I need connection, and I want to have fun. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
And in due time, all those things will come. You talk about having a bunch of money would make things easier, right? But like, what do you learn with just having a shit ton of money going into something? Like, that's the part, is like figuring it the fuck out, and then you acquire those things. But it's not supposed to be easy. Nothing great comes easy, and that's why I embrace the journey for what it is. You know,
I'm finally learning that the pride of, you know, making it happen and it being so hard is worth more than any money in the world.
without a doubt. Without a doubt.
We're going to have to close on this, but after I get finished with this, you guys say what you want to say about it. So this is a poem. This is my favorite poem. I actually don't have a tattoo, but if I do get a tattoo, it'll be the first one that I get on the arm. But it goes into everything that you're talking about wanting to inspire people, but also like your, you know, some of the things that you went through and the self-esteem stuff that you want to help people with. So the poem goes, it's our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And this is my favorite part. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others.
I love that.
Beautiful.
Because it's true. I was telling him, I have shrunk myself for 40 years.
Yeah.
I felt like I didn't belong, that I needed to be small, and slowly letting myself be here, you know, be present and be big and be proud.
Yep.
Has motivated so many people.
About that specific point, I love that line. It says there's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. I love that.
Thanks.
Yeah, and if they do, it's their
Well, that's what it
problem,
said,
not
yeah.
yours.
But
Well, I mean, I could go on to. I could tag on to that.
We'll have to come. I'll
You'll
come back.
have to bring it back.
I'm
Yeah.
local. I'm local, so I can come back.
Well,
never
Tia,
that thing.
thank you for coming.
Yeah,
on.
man.
Thank you for sharing all this.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that was an awesome podcast, as they've always been. But no, I'm glad that we've gotten to get to know you, especially like right on the cusp of things blowing up. So we're excited to see your journey and connect even more in the future and have you back just to share
Yeah, what's going
on,
Yeah,
and then
like-
talk about some of these subjects that we've been hitting on that, I
Absolutely.
want to carry on with some of this stuff as well. So, but it's been a pleasure having you. Thank you so much.
No, thanks for having me.
Anything you want to leave with?
If you're, somebody struggling with PTSD, please reach out to 220.org. The number 22 spelled out ZERO.
All right, beautiful. That closes it out. Thank
See
you.
you guys next time.
Boom! Yeah.
So you make a banger.
Wonderful time.